according to the old analogy, what is the best way to boil a frog alive? Is it to take a little froggy and drop it into a pot of already boiling water and expect it to sit there? Or is it to take the frog, put it in the cold water, turn the temperature up 1 degree at a time until finally the frog sits comfortably in the boiling water, boiling to death? Well, the second one, of course. But now, if the Democrats do take control of the American government, the frog is actually going to be taken from the pot altogether, and rather than boiling, their hands will go right around the throat of the frog and begin to squeeze. Welcome to Courage and the Constitution. I'm just a guy digging behind the headlines to get to the nuggets of truth. I'm tired of the rhetoric and the propaganda. I'm being lied to by the media. I just want to know what's going on in the world. So let's do this. This video is brought to you by Christmas, because Christmas. Now, this is the 10th installment of breaking down the Biden-Harris gun plan, or as we like to call it, their intentional infringement on the Constitution. So rather than go back and review where we've been in the series, I'll leave it to you to watch those last videos and get that information. Now here, just for the sake of time, we'll jump right into the next part of their plan of treachery against the Second Amendment of the Constitution of this great nation. Create an effective program to ensure individuals who become prohibited from possessing firearms relinquish their weapons. Federal law defines categories of individuals who are prohibited from purchasing or possessing firearms, and the federal background check system is an effective tool for ensuring prohibited persons cannot purchase firearms. But we lack any serious tool to ensure that when someone becomes newly prohibited, for example, because they commit a violent crime, they relinquish possession of their firearms. There are some promising models for how this could be enforced. For example, California has a mandatory process for ensuring relinquishment by any individual newly subject to a domestic violence restraining order. Now, as president, Biden will direct the FBI and ATF to outline a model relinquishment process, enact any necessary legislation to ensure relinquishment when individuals newly fall under one of the federal prohibitions, and then provide technical and financial assistance to state and local governments to establish effective relinquishment process of their own. I would suggest that if anybody comes to you and says, they're not trying to take your guns, they speak out of ignorance, and grace should be shown to them. But sometimes patience, it runs short, especially when they're not just ignorant, but willfully ignorant. On the surface, this part of the Biden-Harris plan, it seems common sense. But if you might remember from a past video, common sense is a term gun control advocates use to prey on the low-informed, who do not know any better. When broken down, their idea of common sense has everything to do with the ideals of fiction, rather than the reality of the world in which real people live. But they count on you not knowing that. Now, just 2 lessons ago, I explained how the so-called fugitive from justice loophole was really something that Obama began and Trump finished, where 500,000 people were stricken from the FBI's gun ban list as people who it would be a felony to own a firearm as a fugitive from justice, except that those people under that umbrella were under that umbrella because of things like unpaid parking tickets or past due citations. Folks, they were not violent criminals, yet they were being treated like it, and they were stripped of their rights. Biden is pushing back hard to put them back on. Yet common sense, and they're not trying to take your guns. Then we looked at the boyfriend loophole, which addressed domestic violence, and how somebody who is mad and punches a wall or throws a plate against a wall under just a load of stress, and a part of that plate ricochets off and touches someone, that is enough for someone to be tagged with a misdemeanor domestic violence charge, and that can strip them of their gun rights for life. Now, I've been myself so angry at times that I've had it out on my mattress, and yes, once I've even hit a wall. Now, my guess is that the majority of people watching this may have done something similar. That does not make one a violent criminal. But according to Biden and Harris, in their brood, it does, and it should strip someone of their rights. Again, for life. Yet, common sense, and they're not trying to take your guns. Oh, yeah. And the hate crime thing, an angry tweet that does not even cite anything having to do with race, religion, creed, or any such thing that offends someone, that can be enough in the eyes of a biased judge under political pressure to deem it a hate crime, even a low-level hate crime, and should strip someone of their rights. Yet, common sense, and they're not trying to take your guns. The irony of the above quoted section of Biden's plan is that he outright admits that, and I'll quote it for you, the federal background check system is an effective, you see that? Effective tool for ensuring prohibited persons cannot purchase firearms. That background check system that Biden refers to, yeah, that's the same NICS check that's in place right now. And it's the same one that occurs with every new person's purchase of a firearm from an FFL. It's the same one that Biden says right there is an effective tool. Yet elsewhere in his plan, he says outright and blatantly that it's ineffective. Do you see the game that they play here? They count on you to be low informed. And as is proven, the vast majority of their constituency is, which is the very reason why they are trying to get the voting age lowered from 18 to 16, because of low information individuals. Those are people essentially fresh out of junior high school, fresh out of middle school, and they are counting on these people to be groomed up and offer their votes, most likely, to the Democrat Party. Yes, they do prey on the low informed. They bet all their chips on the fact that they believe that these people who will rally in one large conglomerate ball of an ignorant mass will give the Democrats their faithfulness and their votes. The fact is, what we have in place right now is plenty sufficient for the measures of safety they purport. Biden even said it was a great tool, and it is sufficient. But you see, that is not really what they're after. They just couch their plan in safety. Safety being their Trojan horse. And within that Trojan horse lies the real plan in wait. Now, part of the above plan, it does say that they want someone who commits a violent crime to be stripped of their weapons. But I want you to pause and take very, very careful notice of their wording there. Notice, it does not say they are convicted of a violent crime. That's a very deliberate difference in the language used, because to commit a violent crime is subjective. It's a subjective judgment, and it assumes guilt before conviction by a trial of one's peers, counter to the innocent until proven guilty part of the law, the Constitution under which we live. We also know that this is a part of what they want, because red flag laws, they assume also, just like this, that somebody is guilty before proven innocent, even if it shows later that there was no cause for the accusation that was put forward. So this is a deliberate way to strip someone of weapons through now illegal means which they wish to make legal, regardless of the treading on the Constitution of it. So you see, more and more as they push for the government to have more and more power, and the government grows bigger and bigger, the rights of the people actually become less and less and get smaller. That is why I said at the beginning on this video that they are squeezing on the throat of the frog. It's not we the people in their eyes, it's you the obedient. And what is easier in ensuring somebody's obedience than to first disarm them? Now, may I explain something to you? Could I do that? Please. For somebody who does go out and commits a violent crime, and they are tried and they are convicted, part of that conviction and the punishment for that conviction is stripping somebody of their rights to own firearms for life. Yes, taking from them the right to own firearms. That's what Biden says he wants to do in his plan. It literally already exists. It's actually a thing. So no, No, Biden is not trying to create safety. He is inventing infringements, and he celebrates it. Also in his plan, Biden is encouraging states to relinquish people of their firearms on their own. Now, did you know that in New York, for example, if I walk into a gun store, I'm going to set this down right quick. If I walk into a gun store, and there it is, right there, an unloaded firearm on display, locked, and I do not even pick it up or test it out, but I literally just touch it, by state law, that is to be reported, and I am to be tried and convicted as a felon. You heard me correctly. Yes. Touching it is enough to convict me as a felon. In New York State, it is a felony to touch an unloaded handgun, even in a gun store or at the range. Yes, even at the range, unless you have applied for permission to possess a firearm, and the permission has been granted in the form of a license. Oh, and the caveat, it is incredibly difficult for the average person to be granted a license to own a firearm in New York. Not just conceal carry, mind you, but to own. That law in New York is literally unconstitutional. A felony. That means you are a felon if you happen to be in New York and you touch. Yes, you rub your grimy pink little fingertip over the sweet polished sheen of a pistol. Unloaded, locked in a store. Yet they're not trying to take away your rights, right? They're not coming for your guns. Looking at New York as well as California, both states that Biden highly praises and uses as examples to follow for other states, and will reward a state financially if they do, the lowest classification of violent becomes a Class E, in which will result in a prison term, taking away your rights to vote, taking away your rights to purchase a firearm, as well as get loans and scholarships in school, to grants, and to receive public assistance. And these punishments, they last for life. So what is an example of a Class E felony, the lowest felony in New York? According to Code 265.02, attempt to commit criminal possession of a weapon in the third degree, subdivision 5, 6, 7, or 8. Now, do you want to venture to guess what would fall under a conviction for such an awful, violent crime deserving of a Class E felony? Yes, that's right. Literally, just touching a firearm in a gun store or a range, or even at a friend's house, showing you his old military collection. In New York, that makes you a felon. So, in a clever language that most people don't even question, this is the context in which Biden is telling you exactly what he's trying to accomplish. Remember, Kamala Harris is even more sinister. But common sense, and they're not trying to disarm you. Shut up. Just shut up with that already. So have patience with those who say that they're in support of common sense gun laws, because the fact is they really have no idea what they're talking about. They are incredibly low-informed people. Have grace, but do not give an inch of your rights to these people. You stand your ground, because this is your foundation. This is your nation's constitution. You let them have the constitution, then you will have neither security nor liberty. To not have liberty is to no longer be free. So what do you think? Do you think these are common sense gun control laws that Biden's putting forth? Can you see through the language and what they're really saying, backed up by their actions, other words of theirs, and the same of those as the people that they keep around them? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you would be so kind as to like, subscribe, and share this video, that'll help me grow the channel, and that in turn will do a lot to help us all out. Thank you.